Hello, I'm Mandy and this is my channel Make It So. So today I am talking about a lovely collaboration I've just done with Tania, who is my lovely friend from Just Let Me Sew, and we decided that we both wanted to make a dress from Style Arc. Now, Style Arc do have a reputation for having very basic instructions because they were aimed at the commercial market when they first started out, but I'm happy to say that they have improved. So the last one I did, I've only made one Style Arc pattern before, and that was the holiday cover-up, and it was just a sheet, massive sheet, printed out with the instructions written quite small with not many pictures that made sense. So I did manage to do it because I've been sewing a while, but I wouldn't have given that to somebody that was just starting out. So with the Hope dress, you actually get lots of pictures, which is quite good. And so we decided on making this one. I was going to make the Trini dress, but the fabric that I've used, which is this one, I'll show you pictures later, is quite a shifty viscose, and I had to cut out lots of panels for the skirt of the Trini dress. So I said to Tania, do you know what, I'll do the Hope dress as well, because that looks quite a nice simple make. So the basic shape you get, it's a high-waisted dress, so it's supposed to sit above your natural waist, and then it's all flowy. They only give you the finished measurements, so you can't see what amount of ease they've actually used. So I had to go by that for my bust measurements. So I went with a Australian size 16, which is a UK, I believe, 16 as well. I will just double check that so I don't tell you rubbish. Yep, it's the size 16 as well. And I thought that would be enough to fit me, which I'm happy to say it was. So they had several options. Now I have got the extension pack printed here to show you, but I'm going to put pictures here because my printer decided to have a hissy fit and it didn't print it out very well, so you can't really see a lot. But I decided to go for the style of the bodice A in the extension pack, which is here, and the sleeve 2. So I thought that would be quite nice because it's got this lovely little tie detail. The original Hope dress has got like a button loop on the back, but this one doesn't, it's a plain back. So I thought I'd try that one and see what I thought. So I didn't really want to do it how they styled it, where it sits above your natural waist, because I have got a bit of a belly and I find anything that doesn't sit on my natural waist just makes that even, to me, it just skims it even more, and I just don't feel comfortable in dresses like that. So I did actually add length to the bodice to make sure that it would fit me. Now I can't remember what height that Style Arc draft to, so I'll have to put that on here as an afterthought so you can see. But I think it was probably 5'6" because I'm 5'8", so I knew I'd have to add length somewhere. So I went for the size 16, and the instructions were okay, which I'm pleased to say. I made it in the Ditzy, this is a Ditzy floral viscose. I had bought 4 meters of it from a de-stash that Maria, who is in Virtual Sewing Room, was doing. So I was going to make the Trini dress like I said, but because it was shifty viscose, I wasn't sure how those panels, especially with the bias cut, would go, and I didn't want to ruin the fabric and I didn't want to ruin the dress, because that's something I've been wanting to make as well for a while. So the sleeve instructions were good. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well. It's quite a balloony sleeve, but you've then got some gathers that you put in to fit this cuff. So I had fun with that, I'm not going to lie. I had to unpick it, bearing in mind it's viscose and it was dark thread on dark fabric. I had to unpick it 3 times because for some reason on both sleeves, the gathers, there were so many of them, trying to get that into that size cuff, I just kept sewing it and then realising I'd missed a bit, which was really frustrating. So it did take me 4 attempts in the end, which I'm sure if it had been a bit more of a stable fabric, it might not have taken quite so long. So that was my real challenge, and that's what probably took me so long to make it, because otherwise I think it would have been quite a quick make. So the bodice I lengthened by 2 inches, because when I held up the pattern piece to me, I just thought it was going to sit literally under my bust, and I knew that I'd need to add length just so it didn't. But surprisingly, it did actually sit on my natural waist, and like I said, I prefer things to sit there, so I am happy with how that turned out, so I didn't have to take it apart again and redo that. It suggests that you use stabiliser around your sleeve pieces, your front bodice pieces, and also the back neck. I only had white interfacing, which doesn't look very neat, and I'll be honest, I think that stay stitching would have sufficed, because it was just to stop it stretching out. So I think a lot of patterns just suggest, get my teeth in, just suggest doing stay stitching. This is the first time I've actually had to put interfacing in to sew it in and then trim it. So it's not the neatest thing, I would say. The bindings that you do, because of the fabric, again, it was quite fiddly to get that on. And the ties, you sort of sew up to here. Once you've gathered this piece in at the front, you sew the binding on, and then you sort of suddenly have to go with the tie. I'll undo it to show you, hopefully not flashing too much. So you then have to fold over that, and I found it easier to actually press both of the long edges in for that bit, just to make it easier when you're sewing it up, because again, being viscose and this being very fiddly, I didn't want to miss the fabric if it kept slipping around. So I also, with the ties, I can show you that picture because it printed out okay. The ties that they show you, I think you can just about make out on that picture, they look really long, but when you actually sew it up on the instructions, you can see that's how they would look. So they're not very long at all. So what I did was, instead of cutting just 2 bits of the tie, I actually cut out 3 pieces so that it was extra long, because if not, I think when you tied it, that would have been so short. And I did have to trim a bit off because I had excess, but I think that was just a case of eyeballing it and seeing where I wanted it to sit once it was tied up. So I would recommend cutting longer than what the pattern piece says. So after the ties, once I'd finished, I tried it on, and this gap that you have here for the pattern piece, I actually had to sew up an extra 3 inches, because originally it was down to here. I'll just see if I can show you that. So as you can imagine, with my bust being here, that was quite low and very indecent. So what I did was I had to unpick it again, I'm good at that, and sew up an extra 3 inches. So be mindful of that when you're sewing up that part. See how it compares to you, because that was really low, and 3 inches is quite a lot to have to sew up again. So I did that, and then the last instruction on the extension pack just said sew bodice to skirt. So I then went over to the Hope patterns. The picture for sewing the bodice to skirt is one of the things I'd say, if you're a beginner and you've never done one before, it wouldn't really show you properly how to do it, because it literally shows you that picture there, and it doesn't tell you whether you need to have your skirt inside the bodice or your bodice inside the skirt, if that makes sense. So unless you've done one of those before, you would have to think about which way it goes in. I mean, a lot of people will probably say we know that, but if you're a beginner, again, you just have to make sure you know which way it goes in. And it didn't say right sides together either. So with the skirts, I added another 2 inches, because again, I quite like having long dresses. It's just so nice and floaty, especially at the time of weather we've got at the moment. I just like something a bit floaty, that if it blows around and blows up, it's not going to reveal anything. So I like it nice and long. So what I did was I actually sewed on bias binding, which again I will show you and hopefully not flash too much. So I put on some bias binding. It's a lot wider than I wanted it to be, but all of my specky seamstress ones, unfortunately, are light coloured, and I just thought if that's flowing around in the wind, I didn't really want that popping out too much. So that blended in quite nicely, and I found a use for it, which was good. So I did the binding on the hem, one because I didn't want to take too much off the length that I'd created, and two, it was fraying so much that I just thought this is a nice way to finish it off. I won't have to worry about trying to fold it over twice, and it just looked a lot neater than it would have done. So it did fray a lot, and I did have to correct a couple of bits where it had already frayed, so we got there in the end. Would I make another version? Well, I am really happy with how it fits me. It's very comfortable, very nice and flowy, like I said, which I always enjoy because it's too hot to have anything too fitting. I think I would try another version. I didn't put pockets in the skirt, by the way, because it's viscose, it's really light, and I didn't want to misshape it by putting pockets in and then putting my phone in my pocket. I have seen a hack on, I think it was on Instagram, it may be YouTube, where somebody had done the plain hope dress, but they'd added length to the bodice like I did, and then they actually put some bias binding channels in the waist and then put elastic, which I think would look quite nice because again it would be flattering. So I might even try one of those. I would like to try it in a stable fabric like a cotton, and I would like to try again with the gathering of the sleeves into the cuffs, because I do wonder if it would be a lot easier with a stable fabric. So overall, I'm very happy with it. I hope you like it, and you'll see some pictures of me twirling around in a minute. I do think that the natural waist is where I like my bodice to sit rather than higher up. I did try and do it. I tried it with this. I sort of took it up and pinned it, and I just didn't like how it looked on me. Hate to say it, but it felt like a tent on me because of my tummy. So I think I prefer what I've done. So if you've made the hope dress already, then let me know in the comments below. I'd love to see your versions and see if you found the instructions easier than some of the other Starlark patterns. And once you finish watching this video, if you haven't already, go and see Tania's video, because I haven't even seen what she's made. I saw her making it because I went to Red Hill Social and met up with her so we could sew them together, but I haven't seen her finished dress, so I can't wait to see that. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you don't already, I'd love you to subscribe to help grow my small channel. And if you can find some time to sew this week, make it so. Bye for now.